Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is Andy245, Module 2. This is Part 5, and we need to add squash and stretch. Now, this ball animation looks really good without squash and stretch. It looks pretty good. And the question is, though, we want it to maybe look a little more cartoonish, maybe a little more rubbery. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of squash and stretch. Now, because of the rig, we will have limitations. Let me show you. So let's go in here, and you can see that when the ball, if I scrub this, when the ball is moving, this ring that controls squash and stretch is not following the rotation values and will cause all kinds of issues with our animation and trying to animate. Let me show you what I mean. So we know that there's no squash and stretch when it starts. So at frame 0, let's go ahead and right click over squash stretch and make sure you have the ball animation controller selected and click key selected. So you'll have to have that first key selected no matter what. And then when you see that when it hits the ground, okay, it's going to squash down. Okay. Now the thing is, we're going to squash out, okay, somewhere around frame 3 or 4, let's say. And at frame 4, if I select this and use my middle mouse button and squash it up, it's not following this. And if I keyframe that, okay, it's going to look really odd. Okay, you see? Starts here, and it's not following the line. It's not following, it's following its own self, and it looks really weird. Okay, so what we need to do, okay, I'm going to go ahead and Control Z that back. Okay, what we need to do is we need to have this animation, ball animation controller follow the direction or rotation of this. And this will help. Okay, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to help. So what I do then with this is I select the ring, the ball animation ring controller, and then shift select the arrow, and then hit the P key for parent. So now when we play the animation, okay, it will, or scrub the animation, it will follow that, and it will make it look a lot more natural. Okay, when we do stretch it and then squash it again. Okay, so it works really well with the bounce down, but it's got some issues on the bounce up. But I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a try and see how it looks. And if we don't like it, well, I know that we'll like it going down, but going up, we may not like it, and we can take it off. Okay, so I'm just going to do, again, take you through how to animate the first bounce, and then you can just kind of do it for the rest of the bounces. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and click on the ring. We know that's what we got to actually animate. We also know that we have our motion trail that can help us with the keyframes, okay, where the keyframes are. So what I want to do is I want to go from 0 to 6. I know that's the bottom. That's the keyframe that we need to keyframe. So I'm going to go ahead and keyframe that as well. Key select is keyframe that one. And I also know I have a keyframe up here at frame 15. So I'm going to go ahead and key select that. So anything in between, I'm going to actually do an in between. Okay. At frame 4. Okay. And then we're going to stretch this out like that. Just a little bit of stretch, right? Don't make it crazy. Just make it really subtle. And then we're going to add a key selected there. And then at frame 6, this is going to squish all the way down. Now, when you do that, I just want it to fill right about to the edge of that controller ring, the ball animation controller. So I'm going to go ahead and click on select, key selected. So we do have this key selected like this. So it looks like that. Okay, so we got a little stretch there. And again, that might be too much stretch, you know? So if I go back to 4, I can do that to maybe 0.2. Makes it look a little more natural. Don't go over the top with it. And then that will look a lot better in your animation. And then the same thing with this as it's going up, right? At frame 8, let's say. We want it to squash up. So we'll give it a little bit of squash like that. And we'll do a key selected there. Okay. So now we've got an animation that looks like this. Okay. And then it's back to normal again. Okay. So that's how we're going to have to solve that issue. So you'll do the same exact thing for the next bounce. Okay. And for the next bounce. And as you do this, whoops. And as you do this, okay, as you're doing this, you're going to have less speed on the next one. So whatever you have here, okay, like I have a negative 0.4, which is squashed pretty good. What you're going to do is as you go along, you're going to have less squash and less stretch. So less stretch here, less squash here, less stretch here. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. Okay, as you're going through this, you're going to go less and less and less because you have less height, less speed, and less power when it hits. Okay, you're losing acceleration. So this squash was at 0.4. Make this next one at number 23 at 0.3 instead of 4. And then with this one, you will go about half of that. So this is the stretch at 0.2. Let's do, maybe you could do 0.15 for the next one. Okay? So that's the idea. I'll go ahead and take you through the next one. So that we've got that keyframe. And so what we want to do is kind of find out where our next one is, our next keyframe is, and go ahead and set that. And then we'll go to the next keyframe here, which is set at 30, and we'll go ahead and select that, key select that one. And so now we've got the next bounce, okay? So I'm going to go, let's say 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe 19, maybe even 20. Maybe go to that point. Now we got to be careful because this one here we went 4 frames forward. We could do 4 frames forward on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's do the squash a little bit. Now remember, we went to 0.2. Let's do 0.15. Okay. And go ahead and select that. So let's go to the one that was selected here. This one's 0.2. Now this one's 0.15. Okay. So 0.2 on that one, 0.15 on this one, and then so on and so forth. Now I'm going to hit the bottom, and I got to remember what I did with this one, which was negative 0.4. So I'm going to do negative 0.3 on this hit. Okay. So I'm just going to go negative 0.3 on that, and do key selected. And then as I go up, okay, just like this one, okay, as I go up, so I can get it, yeah, frame 8. So we're doing 2 keyframes up from that. So I'm going to do the same thing here. 2 keyframes up, 1, 2, and then we're going to go with, let's click on that and go up like that. And I'm going to do a keyframe, and I'm not sure which one I want. So as I go up here, boom, boom, this one was 0.15, and then this one will be 0.1. Okay. Go ahead and select that and do 0.1 on that. There we go. And then key selected. So that brings us to the top of that one. Okay, so now you can see what this looks like. So a lot more. Now the thing is, we're anticipating the hit on the bottom, right? Okay, which means it's squashing back again. We want to keep this, okay, right before frame. So frame 4, okay. So frame 4 and 5 need to be the same. You can see that it's coming down. What's happening is it's trying to anticipate hitting the floor. So that means it's squished or it's stretched there, and then it's starting to squish there. So it's anticipating. You have to be careful of that. So I've got to go back and make a keyframe at frame 5, okay. And the frame 4 and 5 need to be the same. So what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to copy this, copy. And I'm going to go to frame 5, and I'm going to go to paste, paste. Okay, this allows me to continue with that. It doesn't anticipate. Okay, it's okay to anticipate it going up, right? Because it's gonna have to find its shape at the apex. That's the apex. Okay, so there's no gravity at the apex. Then it comes back down. The gravity starts taking effect, and then it goes ahead. And we got to do the same thing here. So frame 18, excuse me. Frame 18, right before it hits at frame 23. So we got to make sure that, let's go ahead and copy that. And as it's going down right before it hits the ground, it continues that shape, right? So we got to go paste, paste. And so now it continues that shape. There we go. And we may not want it to go and start doing this elongation until we get closer. So I may want to push this over a little bit more. Okay, so I can go cut, okay, and go to frame 22 or 20 maybe, and go paste, paste, and see how that looks. So now you can see that it's just going to not go into that phase. So you can see I've got frame 14, 15, or 15, 16, 17, 18. Let's say 14, 15, and 16, or 15, 16, and 17. I want it to be the same as this. So I can go copy and go to above and then paste, paste. And this will hold that shape again until it starts to, and you can see that looks a lot better. It's not anticipating the stretch, okay, as it goes down. Okay, and this is something you're just going to have to learn as you get into animation, that you'll have to put these keyframes in here to keep the shape so it doesn't look like it's anticipating its fall or gravity pulling down the object and stretching it. And then we got the squash then at the very end, like that. Okay, so you get the idea. So we got 1, 2 bounces now, and I think you got the idea, okay, of how to continue doing this. Okay, all right, so again, it's squash, get back up there, squash till it gets back up there. And so that's how you figure these things out. And then as it goes farther down, there's going to be less squash and stretch. Okay, so that's just because that it's not bouncing as high, it's not impacting as hard. Okay, so we'll come back and I'll see how you're doing, and you can see my finished piece and compare it to what I've got. Okay, all right, so I'll be back in a little bit. You guys continue animating, and then go ahead and pause the video until you get yours done, and then you can play the video back again, or start playing the video again, and we can see what it looks like. Okay, so we're back again, and basically what I ended up doing was I went until 48 where there's no squash and stretch left. Just kind of ran out of attributes to be able to use. So we've got the, we fixed the anticipation here. So frame 0, we have the squash and stretch at 0. Frame 2, we have it at 0. So we add a keyframe. So we we're not anticipating the gravity. Comes down, squashes, and again stretches, and then comes back to normal, which is 0 on squash and stretch at the top, the apex. And as it goes down, it continues. I go about 2 frames out to 17, keep it at 0, and then we do the stretch, okay, and then the frame before 22, I copy and paste from here to 22, and then 23, it squashes because it hits the ground, right? Okay. So then we go up, okay, and from 23 to 25, I've got it set at 0.1, okay, for a squash and stretch, 0.1, and then we move all the way up to the top, the apex, which is 0 again, squash and stretch, and then we go to frame 32, again 0, because we don't want it to anticipate gravity, and then when we hit 34, I have a 0.1 on the stretch going down, and then 35, I copy and paste 34 to 35. Okay, and then so we don't anticipate the squashing at the very bottom. 36, it's squashed at 0.15. And then back up 38, we've got a stretch at 0.05. 38, and then at frame 42, we've got 0 again. Okay, and this is where it starts losing a lot of momentum, right? And you're going to have a lot less squash and stretch, if any. So I basically did a little squash and stretch here at a 0.05 on the way down on frame 46, and then 47 it hits. And then, of course, this doesn't have much squash and stretch, is 0.05 on that, on 47, and then 48, I've got it back at 0 again. And then after that, there's just no other squash and stretch going on here. It's just going to roll to a stop, okay? So that's where I'm at with that. Okay, so let's take a look at the final animation, see how it looks. Let's turn this off, and let's go to the perspective view and take a look at what it's going to look like with when we're going to play blast. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and play that. Okay, so it's subtle, but it's there. There we go. And then if we want to see it without the motion trail, just looking for timing, looking how it's finished and how it's looking when it's finished to make sure it's not slipping on the ground. Looks good. Now there's a couple issues that I know is happening here before we call it a day. We're going to go ahead and stop that and just go to the side view, and this is going to help us. This is the ground. The ball always has to hit the ground. Now the problem with squashing and stretching is that it's not hitting the ground. Okay, that's a problem. So what we have to do is we have to move it. Now we could move these down, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, okay, and I am going to, because I'm just going to move it down, okay, I'm going to go into my auto key. Okay, this is going to help us. So I'm going to go to auto key, right? Click on auto key, and I'm going to go in here and at the frame that we want, okay? And when you move it, so we're going to get really close, okay? And when you move that down, it's going to auto key for you, so you don't have to do it. So I'm going to go right down to there, and it's going to auto key. It's going to remember what I just did, okay? And then we're going to go scrub to the next one. So I'm going to scrub up and then down again on frame 23 and do the same exact thing. And it's going to remember what I did. And we only need to do this a couple times. So there we go. Make sure it's touching. That's good. And auto keyframe is working. Let's go and scrub to 36. Again, we just need to bring that down a little bit, like that, so it's touching the ground. Okay. All right. I know these are just, this is really small stuff, but it makes a big difference, especially if you have shadows and lighting and all that stuff. And let's see if we got anything. I don't think we've got anything else here. I think they're all good. The rest is good. Okay. So that's it. That's the little thing that I had to do. And if I go ahead and scrub, it will scrub right where I placed it, right there. See? And the auto keyframe is good for doing these small things. Oops, we've got a little bit of space there. Here we go. Okay, so that's it. That's complete. We're completely finished. Okay. And even though this question stretch is super subtle with this, it makes it look a lot more realistic. Even though our eyes, we're not processing it as fast as if we were to go slow like that. We can definitely see it, but when we play it, it's very difficult to see. But there's enough there to make it look more realistic and more organic. And that's the whole idea about animation. Doing your best to make it as organic as possible. I do see a little speed difference in here. I want to take care of. There, it's right there, right there. Okay, so this is a problem. So I'm going to take this and move that back just a little bit. This, and move back this a little bit, and that should be it. Let's go back. Let's try it again. Much better. Just a little bit. So let's skip it a little bit more. Okay, let me bring this back just a little bit more. And see if we can, you can see that I'm just kind of taking that out. You have to be careful. There you go. I think that looks pretty good. Good, good, good. All right. So again, that's how you can just kind of mess with stuff. There's stuff you can mess with. You can take this and move it over a little bit if you want to. Whatever you want to do. Whatever looks the best is the idea. That's what I love about motion trails. Okay. So motion trail needs to go away now. So again, let's go to outliner and get rid of that now that we got it out of the way. Now I'm going to do my final save on this. And then in the next video, we're going to go ahead and set up the play blast. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Make sure you save everything in a sequence. Okay, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll finish this up.